This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 181 of Horsemanship Radio, brought to you by Hands On Gloves, the all-in-one shedding, bathing, grooming gloves. Horsemanship Radio is a part of the family of the Horse Radio Network. And today we have two awesome riders. This is Debbie Laux, and you're listening to the Horsemanship Radio. Thanks for joining us. Horsemanship Radio airs on the 1st and the 15th of the month, and I have my producer, Jen, with me today. Hi, Jen.
Greetings. How's Debbie?
I'm good, fellow lady writer. I'm glad you're here, too. Well, You do. You ride a lot, and I think that's more power to you that you can talk about these things all the time, you know? There's a lot of ground manners going on out there, which I love. But, you know, there's nothing like the experience of getting that hair in the wind a little bit.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And it's interesting because you have to have that balance of feet and hooves on the ground and butt in saddle. There's a ratio that is ideal, and it's slightly different for different horses and riders. But
it is.
There is a ratio for everybody. There's no such thing as a horse or a rider that requires no groundwork.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody needs that. And I think
Mongolian races maybe, or something. A lot of groundwork.
But everybody needs it. And it is beneficial to the human having hooves and feet on the ground as much as it is the horse. So, you know.
Yeah. So, you know, this last week I got to go to Kentucky. Dad and I packed up and went to Kentucky. Your old stomping grounds. Yes, it was gorgeous. Now, Kentucky at the end of March, 1st of April is unbelievably beautiful. It really, really was gorgeous because the tulips were coming up naturally. I mean, organic tulips everywhere. It was great. And those creosoted fences and barns that are so beautiful. I know California would go boo, but they're just iconic. The black fences and the black
they don't use creosote anymore.
What do they use?
It looks like creosote, but that's actually black barn paint. It's tar based. It's akin to the tar you use to pave a road.
Really?
Yes. And you're right. That used to be creosote that they've painted it all with, but nowadays they use black barn or what's called black fence paint to do that. And you'll see some buildings and fences look like it's been put on with a spatula.
Yeah.
And then some that look a little bit more weathered because you can like water it down. I'm going to use my air quotes because it's not really water. But yes, that's what that is.
Beautiful. It is
gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those statements, right? As you drive on these little single lane roads weaving between hundreds and hundreds of acres of rolling, beautiful bluegrass, I guess, you know, it looked green to me, but
now, when you were in Kentucky, y'all flew to Kentucky. Is that correct?
We all did.
So when you got to Kentucky, you had to rent a vehicle.
We did.
And did you rent a little car?
Big car.
It's
kind of crazy on those single lane roads.
That was what I was getting at. And Debbie is not exaggerating when she says lane and a half.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. The most terrifying moments on those back roads, because you want to take the time when you go to Lexington to drive those back roads, drive them gently and slowly, set aside the whole day and pack a picnic lunch to do it.
Yeah,
because you want to just go googly eyed at the scenery because it's just incredible. But the most terrifying moment is when you see a horse van coming at you.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, we're not.
True. And there's a few of them. You or me, chicken. I know. It's pretty beautiful out there. But, you know, the babies are on the ground and frolicking and having a great time. And those beautiful big thoroughbred mares out there having the life, man. They won the lottery. It's just beautiful. And then we got to go to some of those storied farms that are starting horses, you know, in the 2s and 3s. And so we've got these little jockeys up there. And speaking of, you know, different seats in the saddle, they barely skim the top of that horse, don't they? There's no legs.
They kind of just levitate up there. Yeah.
Yeah. And the gallops are just beautiful. So when I say gallops, these rolling green hills in Kentucky where they they tend to, some of the farms, have a double fence line so that there's a lane outside of the fences. And so there's not a single fence around these big old pastures, and in some cases. And so it's about, oh my gosh, you could probably lope 3 horses across in these lanes. 2, really fun, and 3, a little crowded, but not too bad unless there's a tree in the lane, which occasionally there is.
There is occasionally, yes.
Yes, occasionally. But that was so beautiful because I thought that is the way to grow up these young ones, on these gallops where they're a little bit of incline, a little bit of a decline, and just beautiful and happy. You just see happy horses going through these things too. And one of the things that was fun was getting to some of these big old storied farms. Like we went to Stone Farm with Arthur and Stacy Hancock, who've produced 3 Kentucky Derby winners now. We were also on Charles Fipke's farm. We stayed there in the Manor House, and it's beautiful. It's been Evergreen Farm, and it's been Escondida Farm. And, a lot of these places have turned over the years, but Stone Farm is 3 generations now at this point. And also met up with John Phillips from Darby Dan, and that's 3 generations. And they have pastures, literally, Stone Farm, I saw them, 100 acres each.
Yeah, it's crazy acres. Because you sometimes depending on where you're at, you can drive along and you see a gorgeous pasture, and you never see a horse, and you go, they don't use that pasture. No, they do. It's just that there are 10 horses in that 100 acres.
Yeah, and they're across the creek somewhere where you don't see them in the thrushes, But it's absolutely beautiful. So we were getting the tour from Arthur and his very big SUV, and driving around, and he said, yes, my father believed, Bull Hancock, and some of these guys are just storied trainers. And he said, my father believed in big pastures make better racehorses because they get to run free. He said he always used the analogy of if you want a big trout, you don't put them in a little pond. You put them in a big pond.
Interesting.
Yeah. And, they must be doing something right. So there you go. Gato del Sol. And so the thing I had to ask though is, and I'm in the back of the SUV, so he can barely hear me, but I'm like, excuse me, is Mr. Hancock. So what if you have one that's hard to catch? And I don't think he heard me because man, I wouldn't want to go out there in 100 acres.
Can you imagine?
Find one. Yeah, they're mostly the broodmares, I think. No, the babies go out there, though. The yearlings.
Yeah, that's right. The yearlings are out. It's fun because you drive along and you look out and you see, okay, that's a pasture full of maiden mares, and there's a pasture full of brood mares, and there's a pasture full of weanlings, or there's a pasture full of yearlings, and because they divide them up by their age and job, and it's just fun because they have a different, because the weanlings are always the funniest to watch because they're just off the wall, full of themselves. Yeah, it's like they got the day off school forever.
Right.
After the first 48 hours of, oh my gosh, I've lost my mommy, then they go, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever.
Oh, it's so true. They're so cute together too. And if anybody doesn't think they love to race together, each other, they got to go just watch a pasture for an hour or so. They're just so funny, and they tag team, and they do everything that kids do on a playground too. It's really cute.
They go crazy.
Really cute. Anyway, so I'm getting dreamy here about the last week. It was really fun, and got to see the Keeneland racetrack, and sensory overload to see that many people in one place too. Even though it's reduced numbers, it didn't feel like it, because I haven't been out much.
Well, and Keeneland's such a small racetrack.
Yeah.
It's not a big commercial operation like most racetracks in the United States. It's very boutique.
Yes.
So if there are 150 people there, you notice.
It felt packed. Yeah. Especially just being COVID held up, for a long time in lockdown here now. But anyway, we'll get to our guests here today. We have a cowboy entrepreneur, and we have Anita Motion with us from the thoroughbred industry too. People will know her husband, Graham Motion, as a trainer, and from England originally, and just iconic over here too. And she's going to talk to us about the Real Ryder Cup.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff coming up, and we are going to hear all about all of that right after we hear from our title sponsor, Hands On Gloves.
Well, I'm sitting here today with Jay Michelson of Hands on Gloves. And we were talking today about the horse that has sensitive skin, or the animal that has sensitive skin, Jay. And I wanted you to help me address that a little bit. I know you've got some features to your products, but I know you know more about it than I do. So what do you do? What do you say to the owner that has somebody with sensitive skin?
Our gloves are made from surgical grade nitrile. So that makes them chemical resistant, mildew resistant, because you can bathe with them too. They're made to get wet. But across the board, there's no latex in them. So it's great for any animal, any people that have latex issues. There's no latex in it. They're just your hands. And if you have a thin-skinned horse or dog, they're cats, other animals, there are many animals that don't like to be touched in certain areas. But having the gloves on, it's just your hands. You get immediate feedback if you get to an area of that animal that is sensitive. And you can apply less pressure in those areas, and you can apply more pressure in the other areas. We have professional grooms that work from us. They groom for Olympians across the board, and these guys are phenomenal. And they did a study on mainly thoroughbreds, thin-skinned thoroughbreds, and they found out that most people are grooming too light.
Oh, interesting.
They're tickling the horses, and went in and applied just a little more pressure, and the horses loved it. And so that's kind of some of our experience with it. We have all kinds of animals and experience with that.
I think you can throw these in the wash machine. Am I right?
You can. Next time you bathe your animals with them, use the gloves. A little bit of soap suds up all the way. And what we do after we bathe our animals with them, we rinse them off, hang them out to dry, and they go back to new. You can throw them in the washing machine. Just don't put them in the dryer. And just throw them in the washing machine, hang them out to dry, and they go back to new.
Well, Jay, how do people find out about you?
handsongloves.com.
Scott Knudsen is not your ordinary fifth-generation Texas cowboy with a business degree. He's been struck by lightning, in the head, out his hand, played a mixed doubles tennis tournament at the LA Forum with Billie Jean King and Martina Navratilova, and became an award-winning national sales rep for a Fortune 50 company. He's headquartered in Fredericksburg, Texas, at Lightning K Ranch, of course. He owns Knudsen Equine Center, Knudsen Horses, and Knudsen Cattle Company, an American Quarter Horse Association, AQHA, professional horseman, and ambassador. He's ridden rough stock, broncs, and bulls to racehorses. He's team roped, penned, and sorted. Knudsen's ridden cutting horses, worked rescues, and trained thoroughbreds to Morgans and Mustangs. Well, welcome, Scott Knudsen. First time on our show, and remiss for not having you. How are you?
Oh, we're doing great, Debbie. Thank you so much for having us on Horsemanship Radio.
Oh, I'm so glad you're doing great, too. One of the reasons we started talking, too, was Elizabeth K. McCall, friend of both of ours, I know, is moving to our San Ynez Valley, and we got to talking, and she says, "If you ever talk to this Scott Knudsen, he's a cowboy entrepreneur." And I said, "Well, that sounds really interesting." So tell us a little bit about your horsey background. You're a fifth-generation Texas cowboy. What does that mean? What does that look like 5 generations ago?
Oh, my goodness. I'm just so blessed. Every generation, there's just horse stories and ranching stories, rodeo stories. And needless to say, it's in my blood. And now my daughter's 6th generation, and she's into it, and then my nephews. And it's just respecting your past, and it's so important in our industry. It's always evolving. So it's a fine balance. We want to respect that past and still try and innovate. And, always, growing up, I was always around the feed stores and whatnot. And I always saw the older cowboys, they'd sit around the table and while we were getting feed. And I always just admired them. So that was my heroes, besides my parents. And I would hear them tell these stories about everything they did in their lives, and I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be able to tell stories and live that lifestyle. And I remember asking one of them, and it was so, when you go up to someone you're younger, it's intimidating. I said, "How do you get those stories?" And he looked at me, and he had these spurs on. He's a straight cowboy and a generational cowboy from way back, and he just said, "Every day of your life is a chapter. Go write your book." And I took it from there, and I'm, the fifth generation, start hearing the stories, and that's where it went.
And now you have your own story. It's really fun because you've really done a cross section here. You've ridden, of course, the perfunctory Texas guy who rides rough stock. You've done the Broncs and the Bulls, but you've been on racehorses, and you've team roped, and you've penned, and you cutting horses. So what's your favorite thing to do? When you get up in the morning, what excites you about horses?
Everything, and it sounds so generic, but it really does. And, they're just so inspiring to me to even be around. They've helped us, when we got hurt, they inspired us to get well, and they provided a living for our family. But, when we were starting out back in the lean years, it was me and my wife. We got in the truck and we'd go down the road just training horses, different ones from, thoroughbreds to hunter jumper to race horses. And we just learned so much. And now having our own, it's fun to go ride the ranch raised colts and go work on the ranch. And it's also fun to train them. I love it so much.
Why do you call yourself a cowboy entrepreneur? Is that because you just have such a cross section of skill sets with horses, or is there something you help people out in the business side of it?
Well, a little of both. Being a cowboy entrepreneur, first off, being a cowboy is so special. It's just so real, and that's what we do, and it's to our core. And the entrepreneur side, it's such a big industry. And there's, whether you're an editor or a filmmaker or photographer or bootmaker, you can be in the industry. You don't just have to train horses. Sure. And that's what's so great about it. And we love talking business. And when we're on the road giving speeches or whatever we're doing, it's always a combined effort, and that's kind of how it came to be.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. The thing about being with horses is I feel like sometimes you have to be an expert, or at least you have to know a good expert in so many different things. I mean, farrier work, you're a vet, there's science, there's math, there's language. There's a lot of communication going on between horses. What's your favorite side of the brain on that? I
love teaching. I love that so much. I love getting interns out here that maybe have never been in the industry that want to be in the industry. Well, like your online university, it's the same thing. It's just educating people. And we have to in the industry, or it's going to go away. And that's what I love. And when, we have interns that help us with our shows. We have interns that want to be around horses. They end up riding and they love it. And some take care of the ranches now when we're on the road. And I love bringing people into the industry. And giving them a chance and giving them a business skill set and letting them understand it's a business. It can be a business if you want it to be, and it just doesn't have to be training a colt. It could be something else within the industry.
Yeah, and you have a lot of background on, and so as an intern, that's got to be pretty exciting to be able to work under you too. So the interns are helping you with the ranch. Is there desire to be, do you have like a certification process or something, or is that just getting hands-on, just keeping people in the industry trained up?
It's mainly just keeping them in the industry. We were in California. We did some of our shows out there at the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, and we had some interns from Cal Poly that, followed us around with camera equipment. They got to do some of it, and they got to meet so many wonderful people, from Stephon Peters, Olympian, to Ada Gates Patton, Hall of Famer, and they're leaving like, we had no idea this industry is so amazing. And they've never even been around a horse or the people. And, in Texas, I got people that help us on the ranch, and some that just wanted to pet a horse, and now they qualified for a college rodeo team or college horse team. Yeah. And that's what's so great is just getting them involved and then letting them find their own way.
Yeah.
Giving them that opportunity.
Yeah, I do. I think each generation is getting a little smarter with the business side of it. It's true. What do you teach them that's really grounded and, goes back 5 generations about horses?
To be humble, work, and respect the horse. And that's it. And if you do those 3 things, you have the foundation for great success. And at the end of the day, if you learn something from that horse and they learn something from you, it was a good day.
Do you find them with good work ethics?
I do.
In Texas, you
I
do.
Really do. I'm so blessed. We have so many people that want to. Every once in a while, they might not be great at what they are, but you know what? They found out it's not their passion, and then they have opportunity to go find another passion that they can excel at. But for the majority of our interns, so much work ethic, and they're at the barn late just roping dummies, and they're talking about what they're going to do tomorrow, and that's great, and I think every generation has those people that want to excel and the people that aren't there yet. And it's so much fun working with them. It keeps me energized too.
Yeah.
Because they say, have you thought about this? And I give them leeway. They're talking about building a fence after the storm. It's like, how do you think we should do it?
Aw, yeah.
And they look at me and I'm like, well, you tell me what you think, and then let's talk through it. And as they get engaged, they put their own brand on it a little bit, and it really works out.
That's nice. Yeah, that's great. You have gone through some challenges in the last few weeks. As we speak, we're recording this in March, just the beginning of March. But a couple of weeks ago, Texas was all in the news, and you all were really on survival mode. Tell us a little bit about that with the horses too, because Debbie, that's scary.
Yeah, it was, Debbie. I don't get scared a lot, and I guess it wasn't scared as much as it was just energized, and we had to think clearly, and by being energized, we were doing that. And the first couple of days of the storm, it was ice and snow, and I know up north they handle it, more regular, but down here nothing is set up for that. And when it came in the first couple of days, we knew it was going to be bad, and we had a power line drop, and we drove across it to get our daughter to town so she didn't have to experience that part of it. But it was when we came back across, we knew it was going to be rough, and it was. I mean, we were trapped for 8 days when the second power line dropped. And
8 days.
8 days. We didn't have power or water for 20 days.
Wow.
But we just had to learn how to live. And, after the first couple of days, my wife and I, we were like, Mother Nature is kicking us. Yeah. We're on defense and she's on offense. So we flipped the narrative and we were like, what are we going to do today to survive? And that's the way we would do it. We would be on the offensive and we would say, we're going to cut this much wood. We had wood cut, and we had water in the garage. We had a generator, but none of it was enough for what we went through. And we had enough hay and grain, and we just, every hour and 15 minutes, we got up and put logs on the fire, and we fed horses to keep them up so they wouldn't lay down. Oh, yeah. And we were walking instead of using the mule, so we would save that gas in case we needed it. And we were really blessed. All the livestock made it, and there were some ranches that weren't as fortunate, but we just fought it every single day. We would take this water out of the pool, and it sounds bougie, but that was my wife's 20th anniversary to be married to me, and I probably should have bought her a lake for all she's been through, but we would boil that, and that was our water, and we'd toast bread over the fire, and we were just trying to survive. And
my goodness.
But it taught us a lot, and we always flip the negative on anything, and we look for the positive, and it made us closer. Man, I'll tell you what, feeding horses around the clock, you create even more of a bond with them. And, when you see them suffering, you're trying to take care of them, and we learned a lot, definitely.
Yeah, you had said something about, if I'd known now, you would prepare 20% more. Give us a life lesson here about how do we prepare 20% more? Is it just more focus on it, or do they, put 20% more sandbags in the sand, or what do you do? Yeah,
absolutely, Debbie. And I'm speaking to myself as much as anyone else. Is we're going to do 20% more. I mean, we had firewood cut, and we had extra firewood cooked that was in the pasture, but when it iced over, all that iced over. So we had a hammer knocking off the ice because it was 1.5 inches. Then we'd thaw it out and burn it. But we had plenty of firewood, and we had plenty dry, but just not enough to go that long. Yeah. And on the hay and feed, we had plenty of it. But the way it was swirling, the snow and the ice, it got over it. But we were okay on that. On the generator, we had one. It just wasn't big enough to run a house or a partial house and our water source because we have a well. So we're amping that up. We're getting more generators. We're making it our priority to be better set, not only for us, but for our animals.
Well, that's a good lesson. That's good. Now it won't happen for another century. You know that because you bought all this stuff.
And you know what? My daughter is going to have the best boots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be set up.
Oh my gosh, you just don't expect this to happen in Texas. I mean, up north, I know, as you say, they're ready for it more, but I mean, you can't go much further south than where you are. So
absolutely. They said it's been 80 years since something like that's happened. And we got through it and we learned some things from it. And,
well, you're
a wealth. Move forward.
You're a wealth. And you did one other thing I wanted to ask you about too. You were in a panel discussion with a bunch of industry leaders. And what's the one takeaway from this theme that you had for AHP, the American Horse Publications, getting COVID creative, finding silver linings in those clouds? What was your contribution to that?
I felt that like I say, I flipped the negative on everything. And with COVID, I love meeting people. I love being on the road. And I guess with COVID, we couldn't be on the road, but we were in their living rooms and their offices or their kitchen because we could see it, So in a way, we were invited to their house. We got to meet people on a more relaxed level. Yeah. So that was a positive to get to do that. I was able to do what we do on the road. I was able to do a lot more of it from our house, which was a positive. And I learned a lot more about technology than I ever did. And I was able to ride my own horses. And usually when we're on the road, other people are riding them.
Right.
So, and be with my family. So there was some positive that came out of it. Mm-hmm. And it was hard. It was hard for everybody. I'm not going to make light of that for sure. But there was some positives we learned from it and that we got to do because of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think everybody's kind of coming out with that perspective now, even if it's COVID crazy time. But I think there are some
absolutely. And what we talked about is how to have that worldwide audience, and you get to do that from your house and how to be more efficient at it. And I think it helped everybody get there a little bit quicker.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah, it kept us going. Well, you're a wealth. It's really fun to talk to you too.
Thank you.
How do people get a hold of you? How do they find out more about you? You got a Facebook page.
Absolutely. We're on all social media, and it's Cowboy Entrepreneurs, our Facebook page, our website. We have a new YouTube that they want to subscribe to YouTube. It's Cowboy Entrepreneur, and also Elizabeth McCall is a great way to set up if they want us to come talk or maybe do a show or be on the road. She sets a lot of that up for us, but we love the YouTube. I mean, we love engaging with people. Someone said, "What's in your truck? What's in a Cowboy's truck?" And we just did a little quick 7-minute video about what was in my truck that day, and we just have fun, and that's the whole deal. If you can't have fun in this great industry, then you probably can't have it anywhere. We're really blessed to be in it for sure.
We're lucky to have you in it with such a great perspective on life and on horses and in ranching. We need more positive in that, especially in this really tough winter that we're going through in a tough pandemic. So I love your smile and I love your message, and I hope people will love you too. They'll go find you on your website and your social medias.
Hi, Debbie. I just had to write and tell you how much I'm enjoying Monty's podcast on Horsemanship Radio. You and Monty and your podcast guests are my company every evening while I'm feeding, cleaning, and finishing up barn chores for the day. I especially enjoyed the recent podcast 158 because so many of the guys that Monty talked about, and especially Greg Ward, were heroes of mine when I was growing up. It was really fun to be a fly on the wall listening to Monty recount all those stories. And I also enjoyed his discussion with Tanya Johnston about the deer and Thigmotaxis. Thanks for all the great information you and your dad are spreading throughout the world. And thanks for making the time doing my barn chores no chore at all. All the best, Nan Meek.
Along with her husband, Graham, Anita Motion lives in Fair Hill, Maryland, and operates Herringswell Stables. The Motions are relentless advocates for thoroughbred aftercare and tireless supporters of related charities. In 2013, they purchased former racehorse Ichabod Crane. Then they sent him to Olympian Philip Dutton, who retrained Ichabod Crane as a 3-day event horse. A year later, that horse was named America's most wanted thoroughbred at the Retired Racehorse Project Thoroughbred Makeover. Well, welcome. I've got Anita Motion and Monty Roberts on the line, who I guess are old acquaintances from 1980. What is it? Anita, you start us. 89. Anita, what happened back in 89 to put you two together?
I was working in Newmarket for Captain and Mrs. Coldry, and I actually ran one of their divisions, which was the breaking division, where we started all the yearlings off, to go to all the different trainers in Newmarket and all over, and internationally as well. And we started the horses for Sir Mark Prescott, Michael Stout, did a lot of the Aga Khan horses, Henry Cecil, and the Coldrys initiated, I believe, a seminar with Monty Roberts to show how to do it slightly differently. And from then on, I haven't called it breaking horses. I've called it starting.
Oh, good girl. Hashtag.
And I have adopted a lot of his methods over the years, and I've, shown people how to do mostly things like catching horses when we can't catch horses at Fair Hill, or we have a herd of retirees that I manage, and we have a 20-acre field, and the horses know when we're coming to catch them for something like vet or blacksmith, and there's always one that we cannot catch. And we've tried everything, food, and so I showed them the Monty Roberts method, which was to cast them away or to make them go away from you. And anyway, this was in a 20-acre field, and I had a little audience watching me, and they just couldn't believe it that I caught the horse within about 5 minutes.
Or you let the horse
catch. They've been trying for hours.
Oh, they've been trying for hours. Yeah, you'll see some crying then. Yeah, that is so fun. And what do you think is the magic behind that, Anita? I'd like to hear your opinion.
I don't know. I think because naturally they want to connect with you, and they're curious. And typically they know when you're approaching them, and especially they get the body language when you're actually going to do something that might not be very pleasant, like dentist or, come in for blacksmith or vet or something. And I think they can read your body language, and mostly they're playing with you. They don't want to come to you because they know you want them. But if you say, I don't want you, they automatically want to come back. It's kind of reverse psychology, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Dad, how do you take that?
When you're sent away, you wonder why, and your tendency is to want to come back. And we all want to be included by people, and we want to be liked. So when you're sent away, particularly the flight animal is never sent away. They go away. Mm. And so they go away, and somebody just keeps saying, go on away, go again. Well, if you say that, maybe I won't go away. I'll come back to you. And there is a draw after they've been sent away. When you go out there and you just keep trying, then you're a predator. When you go out there and push and push and push and walk away, you're a friend.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And that comes from, and it comes from a lot of experience. Now, how many demonstrations I think you've recorded now? You've worked with about 70,000 horses. How many?
Yeah, it's about 4,000 demonstrations with about 5 horses per demonstration. Mm-hmm. And so the starting process, taking their first saddle and rider, is now about 12,000, 13,000 horses. Mm. And I've worked with, one way or another, almost 70,000 horses.
Yeah, I think that's what our stats are. So Anita Motion has some stats for us, too, that we would like to pursue. We want people to know about the Real Rider Cup. And when I saw your name attached to that, Anita, I knew that you guys had done so much work over the years. You and your husband, Graham, who most people will be familiar with, you do a lot of work out there for not only horses, but for people too. And you've been advocates for thoroughbred aftercare, and I know you're tireless supporters of related charities too. So tell us a little bit about, this is the 5th annual now, I think, annual Real Rider Cup. Tell us a little bit about us. Give us a thumbnail.
Okay, so this is our 5th year, and to date, I can't remember how much we've raised, but I mean, the last 2 years we've raised more than 50,000 each year, and it started out with about 25 or 30,000. So each year we've surpassed the prior year's total And we've been able to just bring more awareness around the country and more exposure to what we're trying to do. If you do it once and don't do it very well, then you don't get much feedback for the following years. But every year we've had all the participants have said to us, that it's not only the most fun thing they've ever done, but also the most worthwhile. And, it's just a really great way for so many people to give back. And people can donate in such small increments, but those small amounts are what, equate the massive amounts that we've managed to raise over the years. And every year it becomes more popular. And, last year was going to be our biggest show to date. And of course, then it was completely railroaded by the pandemic.
Yeah.
So we had to go virtual, which we've actually decided again to do that this year.
Okay.
Because it's just so unknown, what we can do.
It is, yeah. And you're June 20 through 26. So what is it? Is it an actual horse show? I know it's virtual, so it'll be filmed by each person. But how do you pick your riders, and what are they going to do?
Well, each year prior, we have mostly hassled and harassed and begged people to do it.
Okay.
And, then we have people that have persuaded other people to do it. Whereas this year we've actually built a bigger, better website, which people can register on their own and upload their own pictures and videos.
Right.
And also it calculates all the donations that are going in their name. So it's just a much more user-friendly website. So we just want to, we just started it about 10 days ago, and I've been on spring break with my son, and which we're heading home now.
Yeah.
But as soon as I get back at the beginning of the week, we're going to really start pushing it. And we've heard a lot of feedback about people that want to join us, but they just haven't actually registered yet. So I'm going to start harassing and begging again.
Well, by the time this episode comes out, it'll be April 15th. So there actually might be some results that you'll get to brag on by then. But so to enter, the riders must either be sponsored or pledged to raise a minimum of $1,000. Is that still true?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
okay.
That's right.
And the pledges can be accepted via this website that you've talked about. So it's under Real Riders Cup. What's the website?
It's therealridercup.com.
Therealridercup.com. Okay. Now tell us about the course. Tell us what they're going to have to do.
Well, the course is typically no higher than 2'6", and in the first 3 years, we designed a course, and it was the first 2 years, I believe, or 3 years. It was at Plantation Field in Pennsylvania, which is they have a big 4-star 3-day event there. And we did it there, and then we actually moved it to Fair Hill, where they have the Fair Hill Thoroughbreds show every year. And so we built the course, and we had it professionally designed. Last year, we actually did a PDF of the course and sent it to all the riders. And then we asked for different places to actually set it up for a week or so the riders could trailer in and do the course at a proper a proper equestrian place. And that's what we'll do again this year. I think we have people set up to do it in California, Kentucky, Florida, and Maryland at a proper equestrian center. And then, if people have their own arenas, they can do it there. They just have to follow the course description. They have to get somebody who can do a decent quality video to upload it. They have to do the course in racing silks. And very often the silks of the people that are sponsoring them. So a lot of the big owners will sponsor a rider for the full amount of the $1,000. And then sometimes they'll just give a small amount, but that's fine. As long as the rider is committed to raising $1,000 or more per person. So, obviously the more people we have riding, the more money we will raise.
Exactly. And I love, too, that you have awards both for the People's Choice and the top fundraiser. So, somebody who really hustles, that's great. But if you've got a People's Choice character out there, I think that's fun.
We'll have a voting option at the when all the videos are published, which will be in the last week. So up until then, we'll be collecting all the videos, and then they'll be published for 7 days where people can vote on them. And we'll, obviously the People's Choice will be the one with the most votes.
Tell us a little bit about where all this money goes.
Well, this fundraiser is specifically for retraining organizations like the Retired Racehorse Project, New Vocations, and the Fair Hill Thoroughbred Show. And each of these charities raise money specifically for retraining of thoroughbreds. So that's why we've decided to do it like that. And then last year we actually adopted a art auction. We sold note cards and calendars, and we asked amateur and professional artists to paint or draw a picture of an off-track thoroughbred doing something else. And we auctioned off the originals, and we sold calendars and note cards. But actually this year, the beneficiary of that charity will be the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation.
Right. That's great. Anita, that is something near and dear to our hearts. So tell people where these thoroughbreds come from that are going to be put into these training programs.
The ones that are in the art auction, or the ones that are going into the Real Ryder Cup?
Well, the actual horses that you're putting into the Retired Racehorse Project programs or the New Vocations programs, those are all training programs. So where are these horses coming from? They're right off the track?
They're right off the track, and each horse, I believe, they have all raced at least once. They're registered thoroughbreds, and usually they're donated or given to these organizations to adopt out, or all the organizations actually organize different events where you can compete, like the makeover, which would be all for all people on retired racehorses doing different disciplines like polo, western riding, agility, dressage, 3-day eventing, show jumping, and each of these organizations have an exhibition or a show once or twice a year, just for off-track thoroughbreds.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And do you love the direction that this is going for these horses that are off the track? Now, is this near and dear to your heart for that?
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's just much more visibility now and much more awareness. And people are just much more conscious of what we do with our horses when they finish their career on the track. You know, we've always been very conscious of it and always tried to do our best to place horses and to keep track of them. And a lot of other people have as well. You know, we just have a big voice and we have a lot of social media attention, so we could put it out there just to promote all the good things that we try to do and what our friends do and what all these different organizations do.
Right. Great. No, I think it's wonderful that you have lent your name and weight to it. And that's why I wanted to have Monty, Dad, on the phone too, because we are believing in that too. And we're looking in the West Coast area for more horses coming off the track, and use the Right Horse Initiative and other adoption partners to find thoroughbreds too. And I think Dad is a big believer. Am I right, Monty? That you're a big believer in repurposing?
You certainly are right about that. You know, Mrs. Motion, with the horses that we've taken off the track, I would say have another 8 to 10 years of good service to new owners. I'm just so pleased to give these horses a home, and the kids that get them often find them to be loving horses. You might think of them as race horses, all right, when they're on the track, but my, how they quickly come back to just being somebody's wonderful friend, and they'll have 8 to 12 years of good service for families that are learning about horses.
If somebody cared to adopt an off-track thoroughbred, I don't think they would ever be disappointed with the honesty and the affection and the intelligence of a thoroughbred. You know, they have learned and done so much in a short time that when they leave the racetrack, you'll never find a better mannered or, you know, more professional animal that they could work with. And, you know, it's a bit of a myth that they're all crazy and, you know, high energy. I mean, so many are not. We have a couple of horses of our own that we've retired and sent to Philip Dutton, who's a 4-time gold medal Olympian. And he has got one of our horses is now competing, going into the 5-star level, which is at the highest level of 3-day eventing. And then we have a young horse who's by Union Rags that's just starting out, who we think has incredible promise. And then, of course, the famous Ichabod Crane, who he didn't retire till he was 8 from the racetrack. So these horses will live till 30, 35 if they're healthy. So there's a lot of time that we need to fill in before they can't do anything. And that's where the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation come in, is because they take horses that are not capable of doing anything due to age or infirmity. Mm-hmm. Whereas the RRP, New Vacation, Fair Hill Thoroughbred Show, they focus on the horses that are, still able to do something.
That's right.
That's right. That's so well said. They have just been wonderful for us, and we have a retired racehorse that for the Jacobs family that went into training over the fences that just won the Cheltenham. And those horses, like you say, they are like trained show horses. They're not really like race horses 2 weeks after you get them off the track.
No, not at all.
The more people you talk to about the OTTBs, the more you know that they're out there in so many different disciplines, and they're just so multi-purpose. It's wonderful. So I am so glad you're doing this. How do people get a hold of you? How do people get to the website? Let's do all that again so people can circle back with you.
Well, again, the website is therealridercup.com. And if you go onto the website, there's a contact us form, which you can fill out, and that will go directly to my email, and I'll get an alert. Or you can sign up to compete. There's the first tab on the left on the homepage. There's the Real Rider Cup 2021, and you can register to compete, or you can see, how to make a donation, and a lot of information about prior years, all the different pictures, lots and lots of pictures and videos, and we have a YouTube channel. And we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram.
There you go.
So there's many, many ways that you can find us.
Good. Well, let's hope this is a blowout year.
Whisper the language of the herd. Listen, you don't have to say a word.
It's time for Jamie Jennings to fetch an email from Monty Roberts' inbox and share a morsel of Monty's wisdom in a little segment we like to call Ask Monty.
Leave this world a better place and learn the magic in the language of the herd.
Dear Monty, how did you discover and define Equus, the horse's language? Monty's answer. It is fair for me to say that Mustangs, the wild horses out in the wilderness, gave me the fundamental basis by which I began to understand their communication. I first learned to listen to horses while observing wild Mustangs in Nevada at the age of 13. Sent there to round up horses for the Salinas Rodeo Association's wild horse race, I spent hours silently watching the feral horses interact with each other. I soon realized horses use a discernible and predictable body language to communicate, to set boundaries, show fear, express annoyance, relaxation, or affection. In a moment that would change my life, I understood that utilizing this silent body language would allow training to commence in a much more effective and humane manner, encouraging true partnership between horses and me. Join Up would become the foundation for all of my work with horses and later people too.
For more of these insights into good horsemanship, go to MontyRoberts.com and click on the words Ask Monty at the bottom of the page.
We're the Healthy Critters crew. I'm Tigger.
I'm Patty.
And I'm Coach Jen.
If you're a horse lover, dog lover, cat lover, llama lover, chicken lover, parrot lover, paw and hooves and feathers lover, Healthy Critters is for you. We have fascinating guests, nutrition tips, information on various critters, and the only talking Pomeranian dog on the radio.
Hello, everyone.
Join us for our bi-monthly laughter-filled romps on HRN.
Brought to you by BioStar US.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
Where in the world is Monty Roberts?
Monty is looking forward to meeting some new friends, two-legged and four-legged, in May. We have May 3. We have a Horsemanship 101, the foundational class. It's a lot of fun. Then skipping to 28th through 30th, we have a Horse Sense and Healing for our first responders and our veterans. That's a program of Join Up International. Then in June, we have June 4 through 6, an introductory course, Module 4. That's preparing for those intro exams. You know who you are, who took the modules 1 through 3. And then June 7 through 11, we have a Gentling Wild Horse course, a 5-day course. That leads us right into, and Monty will skip, hop, and a jump up to Sacramento for the 11th through 13th. He'll appear on the 12th for a demonstration at the Western States Expo in Murrieta, California. That's near Sacramento. And then, very busy week, we will go into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 18th through 20th of June for the Movement 2021. And we have some real great presenters and even better horses for you in that one. And then we have June 21 through 25 of Monty special training. And we have some Brazilians too coming, and they'll get some Portuguese translation in case anybody speaks Portuguese out there. And then July, we have July 2 through 4, Horse Sense and Healing. That's with our veterans, and couldn't be more appropriate on the 4th of July. And then August 2 through 13, we have the Gentling Wild Horse course. Again, of course, that's the 10-day version. And then we've got August 16 through 20, the Monty's special training. So got a big bunch of stuff coming up.
You got a ton of stuff going as usual. And if you couldn't put that all to memory, you can find all of that and more at montyroberts.com. You can find everything. You can find Monty's calendar. You can find the amazing video learning library, Equus Online University. You can find the Monty's Q&A, which is where the trainers' tips come from on this show, but they're all right there on the website as well.
Yep.
And a whole bunch more. You can find it all at montyroberts.com. You can also call Flag Is Up Farms and get lots and lots of information from the lovely folks there. It's 805-688-6288. And for details about today's show, episode number 181, you can find that at horsemanshipradio.com, and you're going to have links to today's guests and topics. Can people also find the Horsemanship Radio podcast at montyroberts.com?
They sure can,
so
too.
That's
it's
the
right on the
address you
home
need to
page.
remember.
It's montyroberts.com for everything.
For everything. See, easy peasy.
Yeah, we have our programs on there too. Our transition horse program for the adoptions, and we've got our lead up for the at-risk youth, and that as well as the Horse Sense and Healing we just discussed. So yeah, everything all in one place.
It's a classic case of something for everyone.
It is. You're right.
There you go. And something for everyone. Maybe you want to give us some feedback. Great way to do that is to follow Monty Roberts on social media. Facebook, just search for Monty Roberts. Find the one with the little blue check mark. And Monty Roberts is also on Instagram and Twitter, Monty_Roberts. If you have not done so already, head on over to your app store and download the free Horse Radio Network app for your iPhone or your Android so you never miss a show. You can also listen on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher.
Yeah, we're way ahead of the game, aren't we? Can you believe our kids are so proud of us for being so techie, huh? Many thanks to our sponsors who make all of this happen. That's Hands On Gloves. Thank you, Jay, and all your team over there. We love your gloves. And also, we have a cross promotion this episode, which is with Healthy Critters podcast. So go over there and listen to them too, and be sure to visit all the other great shows too on the Horse Radio Network at www.horseradionetwork.com. And until next time, have many happy horse hours.